while they're attacking locally grown, locally produced food that employs the locals. The flip side of this argument is perfectly fine to pat themselves on the back while they eat their, overpriced avocado that had to be refrigerated all the way up from where it was grown in Mexico.
Adam Soos here for Rebel News, and we are in Sherwood Park at the Buffet Royale, where they serve some truly incredible Canadian beef. You likely know that Canadian beef is under attack. The government, the Liberals particularly, are seeking to put labels on ground beef in this country. We think that that is absolutely not necessary. Ground beef is incredibly healthy, so we're here on the streets trying to find people to get their opinions on beef. And look, who do we have here? It's Sheila Gunn Reid, of course. Why? What are you doing here? Just enjoying some beef, coincidentally?
Coincidentally, I'm here for the showing of our movie, but I'm also, as many people know, a beef evangelist. Mm-hmm. And so I cannot abide by the Liberals' rule of potentially labeling, well, they're going to do it, label Canadian beef as though it's a cigarette.
Yeah, it's extremely troubling. We're talking about, as we've mentioned before, a government that's legalizing hard drugs. Seemingly everything under the sun is okay. And this relatively healthy sort of staple of Western farming that is a healthy source of good nutrients is under attack. What do you think the motivation is behind that?
We're going to be under attack by these seagulls who want my beef. Even seagulls like Canadian beef. It's one of those things that it's really an attack on the West. We see this with our oil and gas and now with our beef, and what could be more Albertan or more Western than Alberta beef. But it's interesting that they are attacking beef as close to the farmer as possible, or at least as they can mandate. For example, right now I'm eating this beef in a parking lot, but right across
as you normally do.
As there's never a bad time to eat beef. But there's a McDonald's right across the street from us, and they will serve Alberta beef. One of their slogans is "Not without Canadian farmers."
100% real beef is a fact. Here at Cargill, we produce all of the beef patties for McDonald's Canada. There are no additives, no fillers, just Canadian beef.
But there will be no label on that processed beef. It will only be a label at the grocery store to sway consumers away from beef.
Now, the other sort of consumer consideration is this beef, it's going to cross the border and it's going to have that hideous label, and an American beef will not have the same label. So from a consumer perspective, one has this sort of ghastly label, the other one doesn't. How fundamentally will this affect Canadian farmers likely?
Well, as you pointed out in your initial video, 85% of Canadians still eat ground beef every single month. That's a substantial portion of Canadians. And ground beef accounts for 50% of the beef market. Mm-hmm. So this one move of attacking ground beef, it serves to normalize these attacks to other Canadian beef as though it's unhealthy. When you go to the grocery store, 50% of the beef there will be labeled as somehow less healthy than the Oreo cookies that won't have this label.
And that's the other sort of question there. Obviously, sort of the science is up in the air, but I think most people would agree, and there is science out there, the sort of excessive consumption of carbs, junk foods, extremely sugary pops, all of that sort of stuff, contributing to the obesity sort of epidemic, pandemic, whatever you want to call it. That's clearly a serious concern. Instead of addressing those concerns, which frankly I don't want the government doing either, I kind of want them leaving us alone, but instead of focusing on those things that we know are going on, there seems to be an ideological warfare against farmers and against beef.
Yeah, because farmers generally don't vote Liberal. So they can attack these people, they can attack their livelihoods, and it doesn't really cost the Liberals anything. It's the same way they attack the oil patch knowing it's not going to lose them a single vote. Or they could crack down on truckers knowing it's not going to cost them a single vote. This is virtue signaling. This is coming from the World Health Organization, and the Liberals are just marching in lockstep. It wasn't that long ago that the World Health Organization wanted to label meat as a carcinogen. And incidentally, the opposite has proven to be true. Studies as recently as 2021 show that people with low blood serum levels of cholesterol, particularly in men, are at risk of cancer. For women, it's breast cancer, aggressive breast cancer under the age of 50. So the Liberals keep telling us to follow the science, and I think I am, but I don't think they are.
That seems to be certainly a recurring trend. As you mentioned, this is certainly ideological. It's been an attack that's been going on. The vilification of red meat in Canada in these health guides.
Do you know, I think it's an anti-masculinity thing too. a little bit. We think of, red meat eating men, virile men that protect their families. And that could not be further from the Justin Trudeau types of the world.
No. And it's funny because you see these like generally healthy, active, athletic people on these sort of heavy meat diets having less problems than vegans or people who maybe are following the health guidelines, eating all these grains that they're suggesting. It doesn't seem to be evidence-based. Do you think it is just that, well, this is deemed masculine, this is deemed Western? We're more of a salad and chicken breast crowd?
Yeah, I think so. And, to also add another ideological twist to this, if we're going to label red meat as unhealthy, why aren't we labeling the greenhouse gas emissions of the avocado in the grocery store? Stick a label on that thing that says, this avocado accounts for this many tons of greenhouse gas emissions, because while they're attacking locally grown, locally produced food that employs the locals, the flip side of this argument is perfectly fine to pat themselves on the back while they eat their, overpriced avocado that had to be refrigerated all the way up from where it was grown in Mexico.
It's shocking too, you don't see the same level of malice directed toward Ontario's, say, dairy farmers. All that chocolate milk flowing through the doors, they don't seem to be pastored so much. Sheila, I'm kind of working on this campaign. Obviously, a lot of us are going to be doing reports at freethebeef.ca. What can people do? How can people get involved? And where should people go to sort of sign the petition?
Okay, there's a couple different ways. You've got your petition, freethebeef.ca. They can see your previous report there. It's packed with facts, but also we've got Free the Beef merch in the Rebel News store. It's great. My shirt just shipped today. I'm very excited to wear it. So rebelnewsstore.com. Show your support for Canadian farmers. Get your shirt there.
And if it's your first time ordering, you can use the code Sheila10 or Adam10 to get 10% off. Use Adam10. Heck, we should have a Beef 10 for 10% off. We might have to edit that out. So Sheila, thank you so much. I'll stop interrupting you eating your meat here. We know this is your normal activity, so we'll let you get back to
in
it.
the parking lot fighting seagulls.
And as always, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Soos.
Start right now.
To sign my friend Adam Soos' petition, calling on the federal government to quit labeling delicious Canadian beef as though it's a cigarette, like some sort of health hazard, please go to freethebeef.ca. And if you want to support Canadian farmers and wear your support with pride, we've got some great Free the Beef merch there.